Hello, everybody. We are back, and the next speaker is Jonah Cool from the Chan Zuckerberg funding body. Welcome.
Great. Thank you very much, Miguel. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all, and especially grateful to follow a fantastic talk by Steve and many of the other speakers to share some of our work at the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, in particular focused on single-cell biology and the Human Cell Atlas. So with that, let me very briefly introduce the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, and in particular the work within the Science Initiative. And our mission is to support science and technology that will make it possible to cure, prevent, or manage all disease by the end of the century. And so there's a few things here that I just want to highlight, as I think they're really important in this mission. The first is science and technology, and in particular, the integration of those two. And I think this is really inspired by our founders, Priscilla Chan, who is a physician, and her husband, Mark Zuckerberg, who of course is a software engineer and technologist. So both from their experiences as well as at CZI, really the focus is on supporting work at the intersection of science and technology. So that's one point. The other is that the end of the century is still a long way away. And so it's a commitment to understanding basic biology and new waves and thinking about making progress at an accelerated pace. And so we can certainly look back 80 years and appreciate how far science and medicine and technology has come. And this mission statement is recognizing that, but also looking forward and anticipating that the acceleration and additional growth in all of these fields is going to make it possible for all of us to make much more progress and get to this mission of curing, preventing, or managing all disease by the end of the century. So with that, let me kind of share that that's really the long-term goal over the next 80 years to cure, prevent, or manage all disease. But over the next 10 years, where the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative is focused, is on this notion of acceleration. And in particular, accelerating biomedical science via open, collaborative models and research with that focus on science and technology. And so hopefully all of you have learned a lot about the Human Cell Atlas, and certainly we are one of many funders around the world that are supporting it, in large part because it fits perfectly. It's this wonderful intersection of understanding fundamental basic knowledge of human cell biology, using brand new technologies and doing so in an open and collaborative model that is really pushing the field in important ways. And we feel, like many, it's a really unique opportunity to accelerate our knowledge of many diseases at once. So for the rest of the talk, just a couple of minutes, I'm going to focus specifically on single cell biology at CZI. And before I do that, I would love to encourage everyone to visit our website, take a look at all of the other great programs that we're working on in neurodegenerative disease, in open science, in software, in imaging. There's a lot of great work going on. Many of you may be interested in that and may also be interested in applying for the grant applications and using some of the tools that we're developing. And I'll certainly come back to this more specifically within single cell biology, but encourage you to look more broadly as well. So within the single cell biology program at CZI, our goal is to help understand cell biology and in particular cellular mechanisms of disease using and supporting the vast array of tools and technologies that currently exist, and also hopefully supporting the next generation of tools, some of which Goji and Miguel and Steve and many others have touched upon, with the belief that these tools will accelerate our understanding of cell biology, and that by extension, that will help us understand the cellular mechanisms of disease, many of which we understand very poorly or maybe don't understand at all currently. So how is CZI doing this? And this also touches on one of the aspects of CZI that is very unique as an organization. And in particular, it is that we, at CZI Science, we fund research around the world. So this would include many of you that are watching, working at academic research institutions, both within the US, but also on every major continent. So this certainly includes work throughout Asia, and the work by Shyam and Jay Shen is a great example of how the Asian Immune Atlas is coming together with support from CZI, as well as other projects. And so please stay tuned and keep a lookout for our future RFAs, as we would love to have you as part of that. Jugong as well, who I know has been very involved in this community, in this conference. In addition to funding, however, we also are internally looking to build tools and technology that are openly accessible, open source, and available for those communities that we are supporting, as well as any other scientist to utilize. Two examples of these. One is a tool called CellYgene that I'll come back to in just a moment. And another is a tool called Starfish that I won't have time to talk about today, but is an analysis tool for image-based transcriptomic methods. So if you're interested in that, please look for it. And it's also on GitHub if you're curious. And then also want to highlight, in particular within the Human Cell Atlas, that there's a lot of great collaborations and possibilities that come from this intersection of funding and building open source software. And this includes collaborations, including the support of the Human Cell Atlas data coordination platform that sits at that intersection, as well as engaging with many other funders and communities that are all contributing to the Human Cell Atlas. And in particular, I do want to acknowledge and highlight that there are many funders around the world supporting different aspects of this work. And so we're really honored and grateful to be a part of that. So to very quickly talk about the three different areas that we are supporting and collaborating and building within single cell biology. One, of course, is we are looking to support and continue to support the development of the Human Cell Atlas. And I hope that you've heard about some of those projects, and I'll touch on some of those that CZI is supporting currently and looking to support the community around the world as they make progress on developing this fundamental resource for cell biology. The other that was recently launched in the last couple months is starting to think about using the same tools and technologies that are used to generate the Atlas, and really the Atlas itself as a tool and technology, to start to learn about broad areas of disease. And one that we've become very excited about and interested in is inflammation, and trying to use single cell resolution to clarify trends in inflammatory diseases. And then finally, the tools, and again, we'll come back to this. So I don't have nearly enough time to talk about a lot of specific projects, and I think you've probably heard about some of the funded projects from other researchers involved and working throughout Asia. I would encourage you to visit our website, and on the single cell biology page, each of the projects that we are currently funding, as well as those that we funded in the past, are listed. And importantly, for past projects, we try to update the website with some regularity to include all of the output that these projects have generated. And these are great community resources that include things like protocols that are openly available on protocols.io. It includes computational packages that are available for your use on GitHub. It includes links to data in places like the Human Cell Atlas data coordination platform, as well as preprints and publications that have arisen. So it's a great way to go in and see the sorts of projects that we've supported, and also hopefully find some of the resources that you can use from these projects to help inform your work. So let me now talk a little bit about the current efforts in single cell biology. The first is the CZI seed networks. So again, one of these networks is the Asian Immune Atlas work that Shyam Prabhakar in Singapore is leading, and many others are involved in. But there are 38 projects. They are 3 years long. It involves over 200 labs around the world, so working in 20 different countries and 10 organ systems. Again, I just want to highlight that these open calls and open opportunities for funding absolutely are open to Asian countries and researchers, and so I hope that you will apply and consider them in the future. And importantly, these are projects that are very collaborative and looking to bring a wealth of expertise that are required to start to understand and develop these early references. So that certainly includes physicians, it includes computational biologists, it includes experts in the technologies being used, and is certainly thinking about diversity. And I think one thing that I want to highlight is that we recently have provided some incentives and supplemental funding for these seed networks to start to think about representation in the data sets. And that will include broadening the collection efforts as well as the collaborative networks to include a wider diversity of researchers around the world. And this is something that's really important to us and will continue to be a trend, and I think future opportunities will address as well. So something to keep in mind and keep an eye out for. So let me now transition very quickly to tell you about Cell by Gene. So Cell by Gene is a browser and an explorer for single cell data. It is available on the web, so it's a hosted tool that researchers can upload data to, and it makes it very easy to share that data with other researchers around the world. And hopefully for those that don't have the computational expertise, makes it really easy to explore and interpret the vast amount of knowledge that is available. The example I'm giving here is a beautiful data set that Guoji's lab generated, so the human cell landscape. So again, this tool is open and available for anyone that's interested in hosting data sets, and please reach out via the Cell by Gene, or I'll leave some contact information at the end. And also we hope will help to stimulate and facilitate collaborative efforts to start thinking about tasks like annotation or further publication portals. So in that, let me very briefly kind of give you a sense for what's next in Cell by Gene. So right now, the data sets are hosted. They facilitate easy exploration in the browser. And in the future, we're thinking about trying to extend this and create situations where groups can bring their data sets before publication and create publication pages. They might, again, be able to, in a private setting, start to get feedback and help on tasks like annotation for some of these really complex data sets, as well as really trying to promote interoperability for various tool chains that groups use, both in R and Jupyter and Python. So of course, Seurat and ScanPy and others. So making it easy not just to explore in the web, but then also to download the data and explore it and dig deeper should you wish to. Okay, so with that, I know I'm a minute or two over here, so I will thank you all very, very much for your time. It's been a pleasure. And I have listed a number of links here that are all ways to get in touch or follow progress at the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, as well as my personal email address and Twitter handle should you want to reach out and ask any questions. So thank you again, please stay in touch, and I hope that some of the resources that we've highlighted are useful to you in your work.
Thank you very much for the great talk, Jonah. Let's see whether we have any questions from the audience. Okay, first I'll start myself. So as you very well have said, international collaboration is very important. So it's not only an engine of progress, but also is a reminder that because we all have the same origin, we all are in a way a family, a large family in the world, right? And sometimes we tend to forget that. So how are you going to promote international collaboration at a large scale? Are you thinking of creating programs that compulsory is going to involve absolutely every country to provide participants? And would this be a good idea to solve some problems with diversity? What do you think?
So it's a great question, and diversity extends at many levels, right? So it certainly includes diversity and representation of the samples that are being used to generate the Human Cell Atlas. But then also, as you mentioned, Miguel, it involves the researchers that are actually generating it and the interpretation and making sure that all aspects of this are considered. So in the past, we have tried to have funding opportunities that focus on teams of scientists. And one thing that I think CZI is very unique is given that we're a philanthropy and not necessarily, we're not a government organization, we have the flexibility to support very, very international projects and have tried to encourage that, and I think we'll continue to encourage that. So it's not to say that they must be, but in some cases, it can be really hard for international teams to get funded by the same mechanism, and that will strain a relationship and a collaboration. And the Human Cell Atlas is extraordinarily international. And so I think it's a good opportunity to diversify the researchers as well as the donors and the participants that are gracefully giving their tissue. So yes, I think that that's something that we will continue to look for opportunities for.
Excellent. So I have a question from the audience, is a follow-up on the diversity issue. So when you review the grants, is there geographic and ethnic diversity in the reviewers?
It's a good question. There is, not as much as there ought to be. This is something that we know we need to improve upon. So historically, we have had reviewers, around the world, but of course, the majority are often within the United States and Europe. So the short answer is yes, but not enough, right? I think we can improve on that. Okay. If you want to, suggestion, if you're looking to review.
Okay. So I have a question here from Jason. So are you guys considering to support disease? I think he means probably in a large scale, because you have mentioned something about inflammation, but that is a little bit like general. So
yeah, it's a great question. So the short answer is yes, absolutely. And the inflammation work is a relatively small part of the program currently. So there are 29 collaborative teams supported in that project. One thing that we learned there is there was a huge amount of interest. So we received a lot of applications for that RFA. So like a very clear signal that there is a real interest in applying more. So I think that that's a first step for us, but absolutely something that we'll continue to look forward to and think about applications.
And I would like to add that making this international and making it compulsory to have many countries together would be of fundamental importance, because disease susceptibility and many different things that, Okay, so I have another question here from John Park. He says, thank you very much for the inspiring talk. And then he says, John asks, why, how can we change the landscape of being less focused on publication and more focused on, creating these data sets that are useful for absolutely everybody? Because as you know, just being guided by publication is a problem that we all suffer, because we don't get grants, blah blah blah.
Yeah, so this is a great question, and one that I care very deeply about, and CZI certainly is trying to encourage change. So the one thing that maybe should be clear, and for those that haven't worked with or been funded by CZI, the way that we evaluate grants, and even in applications, when we asked researchers for the output that they're most proud of, it's really thinking a lot about data sets and code, and different protocols and methods. And so, when we look at grants and deliverables and the success of a grant, it's often focused on the resources that have been made available to the community. Those resources often end up getting described in a paper, and that's important. But for us, it's actually all of those derivatives, all of the steps along the way. And it's one of the reasons that if you go to the website and look at individual projects, we are so proud, and we hope that the things that are really useful to people are those protocols that take a lot of time, a lot of effort, the tools that are shared, both computational and methods, and then of course the data sets that can be integrated, that can be looked at through a different lens. So I completely agree with Jin-Young here, and we're certainly trying to support that. Ultimately, we are one of many parts of the ecosystem here, so it's a community effort, but it's a great point, and yeah, we'll try to do our best.
Excellent. So now the last question, Jonah. Do you have anything big in the pipeline in terms of initiatives, programs? Can you tell us anything about the future?
Yeah, so I mean, I can tell you a little bit about the future. So some things that we're really excited about. We've recently had 2 RFAs on imaging and imaging technologies. I think this is an extraordinarily exciting area of research and technology development. I would expect that to continue. I think within single cell biology, I mentioned that we recently had some of those incentives to diversify aspects of the human cell atlas. That was just focused for right now on the seed networks, and we'll be excited to announce which of those networks and what those projects look like very soon. But that's a first step, right? And I think that we will have more projects and more opportunities to think about diversifying, both in terms of the researchers and also in terms of the data sets to comprise the human cell atlas. So I would encourage people to keep an eye on that. So, important topic for the future.
So thank you very much for the great talk, and we all are looking forward for more exciting initiatives coming from the Chan Zuckerberg Foundation.
Thank you again. And again, thank you to the organizers for the invitation.